Welcome to this episode of Catechetical Corner, handing on and defending the faith. Any parish and school wants to know their CCD curriculum and theology classes are authentically transmitting the Catholic faith to their students. Father Robert Spitzer's resources for young people are backed with magisterial approval with both a nihil obstat and an imprimatur. With the growing number of individuals questioning the existence of God, the reality of a soul, and the historicity of Jesus Christ, it is necessary to communicate the truth of these things in a contemporary way to a younger generation that is hungry to be fulfilled, but searching for that fulfillment in all the wrong places. Credible Catholics content is ground zero for the future of both evangelization and catechesis in the 21st century.
Now, who backs us? On the scientific side, here are those who back us. Dr. Barr from specialized in theoretical particle physics from Princeton. Dr. Van Beeper, PhD in nuclear physics from MIT, currently Associate Dean for Research at UC Berkeley. Dr. Kurland in physics from Harvard, Professor Emeritus at Harvard University. Dr. Scheer in physics from University of Chicago, currently at Vanderbilt University, Department of Physics and Astronomy. Dr. Murray, PhD in experimental high energy physics from University of Pittsburgh, currently University of Kansas. Dr. Kubler, molecular and cell biology from UC Berkeley, professor currently at Franciscan University of Steubenville. And then on the theology side, Dr. Barber, PhD in Scripture, Fuller Seminary, and currently Dean. This is a great university if y'all haven't heard of it. John Paul the Great University. Father Katersky, PhD in philosophy from St. Louis University, Associate Professor at Fordham University, another excellent university. Dr. Beckwith in philosophy from Fordham, currently professor at Baylor. And then this slide is the slide that I had to look at and was most important because it didn't necessarily matter who backed, right? Does the church back us? Does the church back this material? That's what I need to know in order to put it into my church classroom. Every book utilized where we draw the PowerPoint presentations has a nihil obstat and an imprimatur. So all the material found therein. So yes, the church backed us, which is why I was able to move into all the parishes and all the schools. People just went crazy for it too, on fire. Now, best part, 100% free, 100% free. It's like, how is that, right? How is it free? That was my question. I mean, that might not be in your head, but I'm like financial analyst in religious education. I mean, we have our budgets, and so Father Spitzer believes that the gospel should not cost anyone anything. And so what he's done over these last 10 years is he has found a group of individuals mostly from Orange County, California, who financed the entire project. Everything, even me coming to you. My hotel, my flight, if it's far distance, rental car, and I can come to you as many times as you want. What I do is I come to the quarterly Director of Religious Education meetings, and then if they want me to come to any of their catechist trainings, which, let's be real, how many of those are we able to have during the year? However, some do, or there's at least a big catechetical day. We come to you as often as you want or need. As long as the money comes through, then we'll be able to continue with this service. There's a price down here, right? You're probably looking at it, $5 to $7.50 per book. What is that? There are presentation guides and student workbooks that are also on the website, and you can print them and you can download them. So the $5 and $7.50 is just our print costs, printing them ourselves and then shipping them to you. And we have a small office, and so we just ask you to do it in your office and save us some time. How is the material organized? Now, I discussed already that we have the 7 Essentials high school and middle school version, 12 plus, 15 plus Spanish. Then we have the little book, and the little book is more for the teachers, if you will. It's a book itself that's printable, downloadable, more at a teacher level, catechist level if they'd like to review it. And then we have the big book right there, also accessible on the website, his full 2,000-page text dissertation, if you'd like to go home and spend the next 10 years reading it. No. All right, and then the next question we get is how long for classrooms, because typically we only have about 30 hours a year, right? The modules can range anywhere from 1 hour to 2 hours per module. Here's the breakdown. If you just cover the text in the PowerPoint presentations, it's 1 hour. You can add videos. You can add student discussion questions. You can cut down on some of the modules to kind of fit it if you only have 45 minutes in a 45-minute range. We provide you the content, and you do with the content as you will for your class. So that's about 7 to 14 hours worth of material for you to utilize as you will. On the website, which we're going to flip over to now, crediblecatholic.com, catolicocreíble.com for Spanish, crediblecatholic.com. So let's go ahead and flip over. There it is. On the home page, typically the movies tell you don't press the big red button. We do. We just have it right here for you. Click here for the 7 Essentials. And then there they are. On the second page, let's go to Module 2. You click it. Now we're under Module 2. This is just what the design looks like. You just kind of get used to it. 15 plus, you can click the 12 plus. You see it refreshes, and now you have the PowerPoint slides for the 12 plus version. If, let's say you're in youth ministry also, which probably you are, because we do a lot of things for the church, you can just access the videos right there too in the PowerPoint presentation if you want. If you scroll down, you see the presentation guide, student workbook, the little book, the big book. Pretty easy. So let's go ahead and open up the slide. What I didn't mention yet is that each PowerPoint has voiceover between female and male. So if your catechists, until they kind of become familiar with the material, want to just click play per slide, a voiceover will teach the material for them. Or they turn it off. I'm going to click us to Chapter 1. And I'm going to just do a little bit of teaching and click through to kind of show you what the module's like. Scientists used to believe in a past eternal universe until the Big Bang Theory came along. And does anybody know who developed the Big Bang Theory? A Catholic priest and Belgian physicist. The Big Bang Theory is also a television show today, and it's the most viewed television show in the history of the network. And I tell you, those viewers probably don't know that a Catholic priest developed the Big Bang Theory, right? So Father Lemaitre, and then Hubble later on, through the Hubble telescope in the 1930s era, was looking through and noticed, it's called the red light shift, noticed that galaxies older than our own were moving at a faster rate away from us than our galaxy. And galaxies that were newer than our own were moving at a slower rate than our galaxy. So it's an expansion rate of the universe. They reverse mathematically engineered that expansion rate, recognized 13.8 billion years ago, the universe was no greater than a grain of sand. 13.8 billion years ago. This is the Big Bang Theory. So Stephen Hawking and other scientists who don't necessarily want to believe in intelligent design argued that technically, even though the universe was no greater than a grain of sand, it did not prove that the universe was not past eternal. So past eternal just kind of means existed forever. Until 3 leading cosmologists developed the BVG proof. Bohr, Vilenkin, and Guth. Okay, BVG, cosmologists, just in 2003, 16 years ago. So this is new to science. And it's blowing the minds of astrophysicists. The BVG proof, what does it state? Any universe with an expansion rate greater than 0 necessitates a beginning of absolute 0. Okay, Ashley. Breaking that down for the religious educator. For me. Absolute 0 is 0 on the Kelvin scale, which means that there's no energy, no heat. We haven't been able to get there, okay, in science. We can't get to this place. There's nothing, it's nothing. So what the BVG proof did, Stephen Hawking said, even has divine consequences. It proved a necessity for something to create the universe. Because why? Nothing can't come from nothing, right? So this, along with entropy in the second law of thermodynamics, which states the universe is slowly running out of usable energy, and therefore if it had always existed, would have run out of energy by now, and nothing would be here today. Second law of thermodynamics, entropy, universe is slowly running out of usable energy. Where do we see signs of that? You light a match, fire goes out. Snow melts. You and I, we age. I can tell you I'm running out of energy from my 20s, my early 20s. So second law of thermodynamics, BVG proof, asks the question, well then, who or what caused the universe? I'm going to go ahead and play the cosmological argument video for you.
Does God exist? Or is the material universe all that is, or ever was, or ever will be? One approach to answering this question is the cosmological argument. It goes like this: whatever begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist, therefore, the universe has a cause. Is the first premise true? Let's consider. Believing that something can pop into existence without a cause is more of a stretch than believing in magic. At least with magic, you've got a hat and a magician. And if something can come into being from nothing, then why don't we see this happening all the time? No, everyday experience and scientific evidence confirm our first premise. If something begins to exist, it must have a cause. But what about our second premise? Did the universe begin, or has it always existed? Atheists have typically said that the universe has been here forever. The universe is just there, and that's all. First, let's consider the second law of thermodynamics. It tells us the universe is slowly running out of usable energy, and that's the point. If the universe had been here forever, it would have run out of usable energy by now. The second law points us to a universe that has a definite beginning. This is further confirmed by a series of remarkable scientific discoveries. In 1915, Albert Einstein presented his general theory of relativity. This allowed us, for the first time, to talk meaningfully about the past history of the universe. Next, Alexander Friedman and George Lemaitre, each working with Einstein's equations, predicted that the universe is expanding. Then in 1929, Edwin Hubble measured the red shift in light from distant galaxies. This empirical evidence confirmed not only that the universe is expanding, but that it sprang into being from a single point in the finite past. It was a monumental discovery, almost beyond comprehension. However, not everyone is fond of a finite universe, so it wasn't long before alternative models popped into existence. But one by one, these models failed to stand the test of time. More recently, 3 leading cosmologists, Arvin Bord, Alan Guth, and Alexander Vilenkin, prove that any universe which has on average been expanding throughout its history cannot be eternal in the past, but must have an absolute beginning. This even applies to the multiverse, if there is such a thing. This means that scientists can no longer hide behind a past eternal universe. There is no escape. They have to face the problem of a cosmic beginning. Any adequate model must have a beginning, just like the standard model. It's quite plausible then that both premises of the argument are true. This means that the conclusion is also true. The universe has a cause. And since the universe can't cause itself, its cause must be beyond the space-time universe. It must be spaceless, timeless, immaterial, uncaused, and unimaginably powerful, much like God. The cosmological argument shows that, in fact, it is quite reasonable to believe that God does exist.
Powerful. Powerful. And that's just one of our videos.
Stephen Hawking has recently come up with an explanation of how, quote unquote, something came from nothing, end quote, which he says explains the lack of a need for a first cause or a God.
First, I just want you to read the ending part of Stephen Hawking's book, A Brief History of Time, which was written earlier than The Grand Design, which is his most recent book from which your statement came from. Now, in The Brief History of Time, Stephen Hawking actually asks, he says, look, the equations of physics cannot explain how the equations became active. So we have to ask the question, right, what, ignited, these equations? What was this litmus paper that ignited the equations so that the equations weren't just something in someone's mind, but that the equations of physics, in fact, became efficacious in the physical universe as we know it? Now, of course, that is very much an openness to God, with the suggestion at the end that God has to be the cause that does it.
Because that's kind of like right brain. Now I'll show you a little bit of the other side of our brain, right? And then we can open for questions, but it's good stuff, I tell you. It's why I joined this organization. The fine-tuning argument, which is that chapter, that next one, it's also so good. If you go on later today, check that one out as well. Fine-tuning is currently what the 76% of scientists who believe in intelligent design and a creator behind the existence of the universe is using. That's why it's called argument, fine-tuning argument. And the universe has 20 constants. So there are 20 constants in that make up the properties of our universe. Can anyone think of maybe one? Gravity, energy, matter. Water could be matter, right? So these are equations that make up the properties to allow for our universe to exist. And all of these constants are tweaked to such an extent that it's almost like the probability of them coming together to allow for the existence of life is just, like he had said, chance. Can't describe it. it's essentially 1 to 10 to the 10 to the 100, I think I said 36, 23rd chance that life exists. And that's the fine-tuning argument.
Have you ever felt unhappy but didn't really know why or how to stop? Do you have any idea what that would even look like? You've seen some people who have so much going for them, but they're still so unhappy. Humanity's been trying to make sense of this problem for forever. Aristotle said that happiness was the one thing that you could choose for its own sake. Everything else you choose because you hope it'll make you happy. You may not know exactly what it is, but you already have an idea of happiness kicking around in the back of your mind, influencing your choice of friends, driving your choice of career, shaping every single decision in your life. Your notion of happiness affects whether you think your life is incredibly valuable or totally worthless. So you should know exactly what it is. Chances are, your idea of happiness is one of the 4 things on this list. The first kind of happiness we might call pleasure. This would come from a delicious ice cream cone, or from pizza, from beautiful clothes, or a Mercedes 500 E-Class with leather upholstery. The second kind of happiness we may call ego comparative. This comes from being better off than others, or at least being seen as better off than others. Who's winning and who's losing. The third kind of happiness we could call contributive. This comes from making a difference to somebody or something beyond ourselves. The fourth kind of happiness we could call transcendent happiness. This deals with the things that you've longed for since childhood. Truth, fairness, beauty, love, and home. These might seem hard to find in the world around us, but even pursuing these things can change us and bring us happiness. But life already revolves around one of these definitions of happiness. You need to find out which it is and see if it's even the one you want. Because if happiness is your destination and you don't know what it is, how will you ever get there? How will you ever be happy?
So that's good too. It's the other side of the brain, if you will. And these are just 2 of our many videos that we have. I showed you a tiny portion, 2 modules of the 7 in total. And if you would like help implementing these into your religious education programs, I'm here, but also Chad, and he's about to probably do a pitch to you. I would highly pull on him, being young and a teacher. He's really good in front of the classrooms with these middle school and high school students.
I spent 17 years in Catholic education before being appointed as the director of the Office of Catechetics for the Catholic Diocese of Lafayette. Most of those years were spent as an American history and civics teacher who, after his own conversion, was drawn deeper into the intellectual tradition of the Catholic faith. As I mentioned when I first introduced Credible Catholic and Ashley Fox, I had a young man come across my path, and I lost a soul because he had read Richard Dawkins' book, The God Delusion, and then triumphantly declared himself an atheist. Despite being actively involved in campus ministry, very well versed in dogma and morality, and having a witness that had drawn thousands to re-examine their relationship with Jesus Christ, I could not respond to his arguments effectively. It was both humbling and enlightening to know that I could not pass on to somebody else something I didn't have, as well as realize I didn't know my Catholic faith as well as I thought I did. I made a promise to never allow that kind of opportunity to present itself again to me without being prepared, and then allowing the Holy Spirit to address it. In 2014, I entered a theology classroom at Catholic High of New Iberia. There I taught another young man with continuous questions and a fervor to disprove everything the Catholic faith and our church had to offer. But this time, I wasn't unprepared. I had done my homework and embraced the call to be a lifelong learner and defender of what has saved me from my worst enemy, myself, the Catholic faith. The following year, that young man entered into my classroom on the first day of school with 2 very unexpected requests. 1, would I sign a form for his application to participate as a member of campus ministry? And 2, would I be his confirmation sponsor? In his written interview, in his application form for campus ministry, he shared the following personal testimony with me. I first encountered God about a year ago. Prior to that, I was an atheist. Beginning my sophomore year, Mr. Chad Giudice made a reasonable argument disproving atheism. I wrestled with the idea of a supreme being and the possibility of knowing him in a personal way. Being unsure, I became agnostic. Previously, I saw religion as something for those who were too weak to go through life on their own. However, when Mr. Giudice began to focus on the life of Jesus Christ, my agnostic views were shaken. He pointed out many prophecies in the Old Testament that Jesus fulfilled. Initially, I ignored those fulfilled prophecies because I didn't have an answer for them. I didn't want to live a Catholic life. I believed I didn't need God and could get through life on my own. And my pride reassured my belief I could handle whatever life threw at me. And if I struggled, I had my girlfriend to help me get through it. But when we broke up, I was left broken and with no one to turn to. In fear, I suppressed my inner sorrows and almost ended it all. In a desperate attempt to keep my life, I turned to God. Taking a leap of faith, I asked him to help me. And after I realized he had done just that, I began to embrace all the Catholic faith had to offer from that point on. Months later, I stood behind this young man in a Catholic church and watched him get confirmed. And today, he is a focused missionary on a college campus. Years before I knew what Credible Catholic was or that it even existed, I was employing the same strategy as a theology teacher in a Catholic school trying to reach a lost generation of souls. I'm not just supporting a product. I'm a witness to its effectiveness. As teachers of the faith, it's our job to show that the God of rational philosophy, who brings things into existence and holds them in existence for their sole benefit with no return benefit to himself, is the same as the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who entered into time and space in the incarnation and took on a human nature in Jesus Christ and offered himself as a supreme act of love in a sacrifice that infinitely wills the good of other as other over himself. That these two entities, they're not different, but they're one and the same. God love you, and we'll see you next time.